to us to date. And we are not aware. So as we are going through this, if you don't have children, if you do or if you don't, think about yourself as well. Because sometimes the problems that we have today, they were maximized, reinforced, or even created in our childhood. Okay? So, for us right now, I'd like to say a little bit about myself. I know it's not common, I will say again, but I have to say it because it's fair that people look and say, who are you to talk about this? This talk is very sensitive. We started this talk in Baltimore years ago. I think it was 2011 when we started a campaign, Honor My Parents. You know, Moses, one of the commandments is honor your parents, and to date we still don't. And psychology explains that majority of our problems happen because we don't know how to honor our parents. But honoring parents is not about a hug on Christmas, gifts or money. It's the inner honor. How do we do it? So, I was born in a Spiritist family. Since my great-great-grandfather. Yes, I'm the 5th generation of Spiritists in my family. That doesn't mean anything in the sense of like I'm a better Spiritist, because it's a choice that people make today. You don't need. Chico Xavier was the first Spiritist in his family, and he's incomparable. So the reason why I give you this knowledge about myself is because I paid attention to the Spiritist teachings that I was given. I always loved going to the Spiritist Center, though it was much more strict than it is nowadays, because it was pretty much an adult world. But it was in the 70s, after I was born, a little after I was born, that they created in Brazil the Spiritist program for children and youth. And visiting my grandmother and also going to Spiritist education, I always enjoyed it. So when I was 14, I was already in the youth program in the Spiritist Center. And they asked, do you want to help teaching children about Spiritism? And I said, I do. I love it. And then I started on Sundays at 7 a.m. going to a specific area for at-risk children and youth, and I started learning about it, being an assistant. But then at 17, I implemented the program in an organization that didn't have any Spiritist program for children, and I became the coordinator of hundreds of children because I really loved it. By then, I was already in graduate school in psychology in Brazil. So I've always been interested in education and the Spiritist education. I became a psychologist, then I did my PhD in neuroscience, neuropsychology. At 24, I got my PhD, and I was invited to come to the United States to do my postdoc at the University of Maryland. Coming there, I continued as an educator, a researcher, and became a faculty at the University of Maryland. And I was there for 18 years until I decided to stay here because I have a daughter, my husband, and the commute became quite difficult with a child. My priority is really to focus on the child, Virginia. But I opened a business named School of Emotion, where I continue helping people, teaching about emotions, etc. In the Spiritist education, in 98, when I moved to the United States, I opened a group in the Potomac area for Spiritist youth education. And Kara Stroh-Snyder, who's not here tonight, but she's now a mother as well, but she used to be 14 years old when she and other teens were being educated about Spiritism. Children of diplomats, military people, etc. So from there on, opening the group in Baltimore, that now is the center, it's been 20 years, we also had training. I gave training to Carrie Stroh-Snyder, Alba Morales, Yaskar Akava, and many others in Baltimore to teach children and youth about Spiritism, and kept teaching, giving the training to several other people around the world and in the United States. But in 2006, many people in the United States started asking about indigo children, crystal children, what it was about, special children. It was then when I invited Divaldo Franco to go to Chicago, because an American friend, Amy Bianc, wanted clarifications about the Spiritist view on it. After this, I wrote the book with Divaldo Franco on the crystal and indigo children that you may find here in Portuguese and in English. And it was published in 2007. Our dear Val made the first cover back then, right? And the book is just a reference for us to understand about children who are born and they really look different in their behaviors, in their outcome, etc. So it's always been my interest and the interest of the good spirits that guide us that we focus on this. Chico Xavier used to say that we need a course for parents. Being a mother, I agree. But why hasn't it happened this far? Because it's the toughest crowd. Because it's tough being a parent. And we don't want to be lectured about it. Because it's tough in itself. Don't tell me how to do because I know it. You don't know my life. So that's why probably it doesn't happen to date. The Spiritist movement in Brazil is very advanced, but in that area there's nothing organized to teach parents. Why? Because they don't have time, and if they do, they're like, please don't lecture me, I don't want to go there, I think I'm doing great. You don't know my children, it's different, my children are different. But in our center, we follow through the Spiritist teachings, and we really implement the guidance that is given to us. We did it in Baltimore, and we are implementing here in the Spiritist Society of Virginia a series of talks. At least once a month, we're going to dedicate a Friday session to giving parents a hint. I am a parent too, and I have to learn the same. We are just sharing the study because we need it. We need the support. Why? Because they reincarnate, and it's on us to guide their lives. So the responsibility mounts. We cannot take it lightly. Today, the first talk in the series is based on a book that I read. It is in Portuguese. It's not yet in English, but it's in that book, Parents, Oversight Today, Children's Challenge Tomorrow. Pequenos Descuidos, Grandes Problemas, by the Spiritist physician. He's a physician and a Spiritist, very knowledgeable. If you have Facebook, type in his name, Américo Canhoto. He's phenomenal. He shares insights about 10,000 things, and he's very knowledgeable about education. And we compiled this talk based on the Spiritist literature, but focused a lot on his book. Pequenos Descuidos, Grandes Problemas. like small oversights today, big problems tomorrow. So let's go from the beginning to remind us, okay? Why are we parents? Well, Kardec asked this question, and St. Augustine addressed it in a chapter that every parent should read before they become parents. If not, then read it again afterwards, or read it first time afterwards. Chapter 14, item 9 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. Because he explains to us what we need to do. And St. Augustine comes to say, we are parents to lead our children so to God. So it's free. These are good news, right? Because many parents, I talk to them every day, and they're like, oh my gosh, I have to make savings because of college. You can send them to college, but are they really going to achieve this? Because Kardec asked, what if we fail? We will have to repeat it. But in conditions that may be worse than today. So we don't want to go there. To lead our children so to God, how do we do it? Bringing them to the center once a week helps. But we know that it's much more than that. It's on us. The 1 hour in the center every week may be impacting, but certainly the everyday life is the most important. So the first question for us, how can I lead my child to God if I haven't led mine to God? Do I dedicate myself, every thought, feeling, word, and action to God? Because if I do, it's second nature to pass it on to our children. But if I live a double life, my work is here and God is somewhere else, it's going to be hard to teach our children that God is everywhere. There's even a song we sing in the Saint, the G.O.D. song. G.O.D. God is here. G.O.D. God is everywhere. God is everywhere, meaning even when somebody's committing a crime, where is God? Is not where? Nowhere. God is omnipresent everywhere. Everywhere. Lies, betrayals, cheating doesn't happen before God. That's why God is never cheated upon, because He knows way before we did it. We don't betray God because God knows. We don't cheat on God because God knows. So we don't need to feel like, oh, I don't want to look at God. How do you live a second without looking at God, without being in the presence of God? So to lead our children so to God requires that we lead our soul to God. So a sense of religiosity is imperative. But nowadays we are living at a time when everything's so laxed. We don't talk about God. It's almost like it's easier to say the F word than to say the G word. If you say the F word, people are like, if you say God, you are in a parents' meeting or in a business meeting, and you say, I believe in God. I love God. I worship God. And everybody like, who are school. But a business meeting say, F this, F that, ha 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 ha. Everybody. Nobody feels uncomfortable. These are the times we're living in. And Jesus told us, it's going to happen. A time in which the values are going to be upside down. But it's up to us. So a sense of religiosity, spirituality, is of the essence. Some people think that by placing our children in a religious school, it's going to give them a sense of religiosity. It depends if they really feel it. If it's just external habit, it's going to be like eating. You eat, you don't know what you're eating. It doesn't change anything. We don't learn how to eat well by simply eating well. We need to rationalize it. We need to be aware of it. Awareness is everything. So today, we're coming to know with science that a sense of spirituality in life is synonym of health. Dr. Harry Canning and several other researchers in the United States have already proved that those who cherish spirituality, religiosity, are healthier. They are happier than the people who have not. They may disguise it, but in the long run and when problems mount, the difference is made. So giving them a religion, a sense of spirituality, is vital. Parents at the end of the day are educators, and that's what people don't know when they have children. Right? We have children like, we plan, and then we go to the hospital nowadays. They teach breastfeeding. And nowadays I laugh because it's like, man, those are important things where they are so small compared to the real deal. Diaper changing. You go there and you learn. I remember pushing Carlos, we have to go. We have to go to practice it. And today I look back, I don't regret. But then, the main concern, are we ready in terms of being an educator? Do I have a plan? What are our principles, moral values? We're not prepared. That's the reality. We are illiterate in that regard. No wonder we have so many problems in our society. It begins before we are gestated, because people are not prepared. We are prepared to be a physician, to be an accountant, to be a lawyer. But to be a parent, you don't need a PhD. The most important mission in the world is not the president of a country. It's the president of a mind, being a parent. That child is at your mercy. And how are we prepared to expose them to our 10,000 things? We don't feel guilty, but there is time for us to adjust ourselves. God is so good that there is always time to shift gears, change, transform ourselves, prepare ourselves better. Because parenting is not only when they are dependent on us, parenting is continuous at a different dynamic, but even when they are independent, it still counts. It still makes a difference. But what is education? Let us revisit. Kardec, in the Spirit's book, question 685, he says to us that education is the sum of newly acquired habits. We tell, oh, this child is well educated. This one is not. Because they learned something that others didn't. Right? That's the difference. But if we don't teach them, who will? I know many parents who give excuses. But my child is small. That's how small children behave. If they don't have good education. Because if you are educating them, they can change. But if I'm breastfeeding and, hi, how are you? Oh, no, I don't. Oh, that person. Oh, my God, and they're learning. It starts way before they even start walking, crawling, talking. We're teaching. We're teaching to be sarcastic. We're talking about moral values. So, are we prepared to compose a program and lead these spirits that are children of God into new habits? Because they bring old habits that we know. And St. Augustine says, from the crib you can tell. And I would say, St. Augustine, I agree with you, but actually it starts when we're just sitting down. We can tell. We can tell who is here. We feel it. And if we pay attention, we already have a plan before they get out. But we have a plan already here, educating them. Neuroscience proves to us that when they are being gestated, when we are being gestated by our parents, our brain is super plastic, super moldable. So that's the best time to educate. But not the ABC, please. Because I know there are programs nowadays you teach the alphabet to babies in the valley. I remember being pregnant of Virginia, reading about it. I said, no, that I won't do. That's too much. Come on. There is no need for a baby to be born knowing the alphabet. Let them cry whatever language they want, right? But the other things, emotional management, spiritual management, it changes everything. The child is born calmer. The child is born more confident, etc., etc. Oh, but that passed. That's okay. But now we know. Even science proves to us prenatal life is an optimal time for us. The experiences will be long-lasting. Whatever happens in childhood at prenatal life will have an effect later. We have 10,000 stories. I'll tell you one. A teenager, 17 years old. One day, she heard about music therapy, and she wanted to go for it. So she told me, Vanessa, I signed up. I came to the first session. And the teacher therapist told me, draw whatever you like. Okay. She said, I did it. And she said, okay, come back next week and we're going to begin. When I came back, she said she got a package, like pages of analysis of her drawing. And the most striking one were in the first sentences. When you were a 3-month-old baby, you were rejected by your mother. She read it. She couldn't think any longer. She said, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't understand why. And then it repeated at another age, and then 3 years old. She ran home and asked her mother, She showed it to her mother and said, "Is this true?" Her mother said, "Yes, it is true." Her mother explained why. It was not out of evil. As Jesus said to Peter, most often we do things out of ignorance, being fragile. It's not actually evil, but fear sometimes drives us to take certain actions and feel certain things. It took a while for that girl to process it all. She could understand many things about herself after that day. But in a drawing, you could pick up. And there are several scientific papers in psychology proving to us that prenatal life impacts greatly on us. So it's important for us to understand. The beauty of it all is that we're not doomed to what happened there. God made us like the computer. You can go and re-edit. You can work on those emotions. You're not doomed to that impression that was made on you. You have power to work on it, but we need courage, and many people don't want to see it because it may be painful. No, my parents love me. No, we get along well. Resistance, right? Mechanisms of defense. Yes and no. Read chapter 14, item 9 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, and St. Augustine explains to us that in the process of reincarnation, most often there is a proposal of reconciliation. Big deal. It's rough and sometimes tough, but it's possible to recover. It's possible to heal if and only if we go back, look at that child, and take care of that child. We're saying this to ourselves, but we're also saying this to ourselves as parents and educators, because now we make that impression in our children. For us, it doesn't sound much. But remember your parents. They are always bigger than you. They are always more important than you. Always. For our children, we're always more important than anybody else. If parents just knew it, they would be more diligent, more careful, and renounce the things of matter to pay attention to that mind that does not deserve to receive any impression just because we need to pay our mortgage. Every day I drop off Virginia at her school. When I can't, Carlos helps. But I say this because when I enter the school, good school, on the left side, it's the infant care. They are very caring, but it doesn't compare to a parent care, a loving parent. I know they're being cared for. The teachers are phenomenal, but it doesn't compare. They're crying, and they're talking to each other, the caregivers. Why are they crying? I don't know. Let's try this, that, and the other. If it's your child, what's happening to you? Why are you crying? Let me understand you. Pick you up. Walk, talk to you, with you. Does that make a difference in the development of that child? Of course. And according to studies, the critical window for emotional development happens from 0 to 3. Today, I heard the news that Melinda Gates and Bill Gates are giving 52 weeks. Right? 2 parents. Thank God. Hallelujah. It's not the optimal, but it's better than nothing or today. So, the education that we want, says Kardec, encompasses knowledge, skills, desire, habits. At the end of the day, we want to give new habits that will be incorporated by new skills, new knowledge, new desire. And that's important because the good spirits say to us, we come from previous lives with old conditionings, old desires. In this life, we're constantly telling our children, like a broken record. Virginia, you were born to serve, remember? Oh, but I go to school and this. Remember, you were not sent to school to be liked. You were sent to school to like people, to help them. It doesn't matter if they like you or not. That's not why you're there. You were loved by God, and that suffices. You're loved by Jesus, that suffices. You're loved by your parents, that suffices. If you go to school expecting to be loved, you'll be frustrated, and you go home every day crying, because that's not why people go to school on earth. Maybe in Jupiter, but not on earth. How old is she? 5. She learns it today and every day, and we repeat every day. And you were born to serve, you were born to help, you're loving and kind, and remember, and remember, and remember, and remember. But if I don't have that time, who will tell them? The teacher. When we reincarnate in a family, there is what they call a reincarnatory plan. Read the books by André Luiz, from Nosso Lar to The Messengers, the Missionaries of the Light, Between Heaven and Earth, and etc. until and life goes on. And we're going to see stories after stories after stories on how the good spirits plan the families to be together. And why are we together? To be loved. To love. The result is be loved, but to love. But that's not what we do. You know why? Psychology explains. Actually, it was the psychiatrist Eric Berne in the 1970s that figured out that inside of us there is a child, a parent and an adult. And that child is always in us seeking to be loved, to be accepted, to be understood. And that's why we fail in our relationships, at work, in the family, in society. Because instead of looking at people and saying, I am with you to help you, I seek people with that need to be loved, to be appreciated, to be understood, and then we don't receive that, we shut down. Thank God the shutdown is over today. No more shutdowns, hopefully, right? But friends, in that reincarnatory plan, there is the special reincarnation we are living right now. The reincarnation in the planetary transition. Right now, 3 main things need to be observed. Reconciliation with enemies. That's why people are now like, everybody's so intolerant because everybody's put together. This is it. We need to respect each other, to say the least. Law of justice, love and charity, in the Spirit's book by Kardec. He asked the good spirits, how can we define justice? the answer. Respecting people's rights. Respecting their ways of being. Justice. We're not just because we don't respect. People start whistling next to us and we're like, why are you whistling, right? I'm not talking about in our center organization because that's the collective. We're talking about day-to-day life, right? When you brush your teeth this way, somebody brushes that way. Somebody likes the soap with this fragrance, you like another fragrance. And everybody, I don't get it. Why do you like that and not this? Like food. In a family, people like different types of food, and sometimes people are bothered. Like, how come you don't like this? Because I don't like it. And then we make a list, and people come say, we're going to divorce. Why? Because they don't like the food that I like. Because they don't brush the way I brush. Because they don't clean the way I clean. Because, well, but is that fair? Is that just? It's not just. That's not a good reason. So there's more to the list than the list itself. So we are reincarnating to be in reconciliation. And diseases are happening. Cancer is spreading out, right? Every day you hear somebody. Cancer here, cancer there, cancer here. Because it's draining. And God is saying, thank God, it's out of your perispirit into the body, you're lighter. When you go back to the spiritual home, you're going to fly lighter. And natural disasters. As ways to wake us up in Paradise, California. Not so much a paradise anymore. And I'm not saying this, I feel sorry. But we need to read in between the lines why Paradise, California was burned, destroyed, to say paradise is not on earth. And natural selection. I mean, if we don't want to progress, next school will be sent to another planet. Read chapter 3 of the Gospel According to Spiritism. It talks about the different planets and how if we don't comply with the rules of this school, we'll be sent. This is God's way of educating us. God is the best educator. So, where do we begin as parents? Professor Eurípides Barçanufo says we need to educate the soul, not the child. If you look at the child like the baby, oh, it's just a baby. I remember when Virginia was born, and forgive for the personal touch, but as an example, very vivid. I remember she was just born in the first weeks, and she wanted to be fed. She was breastfed only. She didn't want a bottle. So she wanted to be breastfed all the time. And then one day, I sent an email to Deval. He was asking a question. I said, I don't know what to do. And I remember when he said, as a wonderful educator, he said, Vanessa, you need to educate her now. Do not let her breastfeed before the gap, like the interval of 3 hours. Make her wait. I was surprised. I was like, really? How can I tell a baby? No, you're not. Well, we managed. It worked. Every 3 hours for 14 months until she slept for longer hours and no longer needed every 3 hours. So, think about this. We can educate the soul, not the body. So the Father is right. I can talk to the Spirit and say, Spirit, Virginia, Come on. Help mommy. You can do it. And then eye to eye, says Professor Hibbs-Barsanov. But eye to eye means at their level, not like this. At their level, eye to eye. And say, look at me in the eye. Spirit X. Remember when you came here and you came here to do this? We're talking to the Spirit. It may go away, but we keep reminding. That's the philosophy and the methodology of Professor Hibbs-Barsanov, which is the Spiritist education. So we're educating for immortality. We're not educating for today. So they go to Harvard, to Stanford. They go and they fail in the moral principles. They better not go. But the moral is the most important. The ethical moral part of it. The intellectual is important, but the moral, the ethical is at the forefront. So based on the book that we mentioned, we compiled a few bullet points for us. According to the Spiritist literature and Américo Canhoto's book, self-knowledge is empowerment. So we need to get to know of ourselves first and know that the children are not supposed to be whom we expect, the children. So expecting nothing is the best. Nothing in the sense of like a sower puts a seed on the floor, cultivates, keeps working on it, and allows it to grow. Healthy, but not like, oh, you are a red apple? I was dreaming about a green apple. What kind of sower is this, right? So us, we don't project that external part, but the inner. Good character formation. A sincere, honest, courageous, determined, disciplined, loving, caring. That is a must for us. To give a boost and say, that's the direction. Not the external. The titles, the passing things. And allow the child to experience frustration. We don't like it. I know. We want to shield them. But it's important to be frustrated, because does life frustrate us? If we love them, we tell them that's how life is. Be prepared. I'm not going to prepare a soldier to go to battle telling them, you have to use your armor, you have to be prepared, because it's about, that's what it is. I'm not saying we're going to say this to a child, but when you prepare somebody for life, you let them experience what life is going to teach them. Say, yeah, you cannot eat this now. Oh, they're just a child. Come on. The grandparents come, right? Yeah, we didn't hear that when we were children. Oh, really? Poor them, right? No. Frustration to you too, grandparents. Go sit and wait. No. Now it's my turn. And my turn says, no. No, because I love you. And you don't need it. It's okay, you're not going to die without it. And we don't need to be entertainers. Because I know parents who make plans for a year of several entertaining activities to keep their children entertained, because if they are home, they're going to be bored. Great. Because it's in boredom that they boost their creativity. I remember a music teacher telling me when Virginia was just 6 months old, she said, parents, when they feel the silence, they feel the need to talk to their children all the time, like, are you okay? Is everything okay? Why are you quiet? And they say, leave them alone if they are not messing up anything. Because it's in that quietude that their creativity comes out. And excessive stimulation is a fake way of teaching them a lot about life. That life has to be fun. It doesn't look like it for us, right? Unless we find the fun in it. But every day, the routine, either you find the fun in it or it doesn't exist at all. And that's going to be their life. No wonder the millennials are experiencing problems nowadays. Because they were already taught that way. Like, shielded from so many things.
Sorry, nowadays you can't say no to a child.
You can't say no.
And the millennials were raised that way, like, oh, you can't say no to them. Or
Yeah.
da, da, da. And when I moved to the States, I was like, okay, keep going on that, because I work with families, with children. And said, keep going that way, let's see where it goes. And now you see, like, they can deal with anything, because life will say no. If your parents did it, life will.
Yeah.
You know, so
Nowadays they're like this. They go to work and they're like, my boss said that I shouldn't do this. I'm like, well, your boss can say anything, right? You shouldn't sit here. That's okay. I learned that the boss says, we do it. But if you don't learn it from home, how you're going to project it at work? Obedience is a virtue in the gospel. It's in the gospel according to Spiritism. Jesus is a model of obedience. He obeyed Jesus from A to Z. If we don't teach the beauty of obedience, our children won't grow. We have something at home I wrote, typed in, and put in Virginia's room. Quem obedece, cresce. If you obey, you grow. Obey the good things, of course. We're not talking about blind obedience like in the Nazi time. We're talking about the common sense here, please. Some parents tell me, what about the Nazi? Oh, please. I don't need to answer that, right? Why? Parental projection. Says Dr. Américo Canhoto, egotistic and frustrated parents usually overstimulate their children's sport and scholarly competitions. Two, discipline is key for good education. The studies show that children without limits become arrogant and careless. I won't go over this because of time. Forgive me because I can't go over. If you want more details, I can tell about the graph later. But just for now, it's already said. Read the study on the marshmallow experiment by Stanford. We showed it to our children here weeks ago, and we tell you. Last week actually. And it's vital. It's a longitudinal study. And they show at 4 years old, because I know parents will come, oh, they are just 4. At 4, they should know many good things. They should know how to sit here and be quiet. If they can't do this at 4, problems. Read the study. And it says, without limits, become arrogant and careless. And we teach them to learn to love discipline, like Chico Xavier's mother did. She discarnated, came visiting him often. He was taken care of by a very difficult, brutal, cruel godmother who would spank him, make him lick the wounds of her son. Chico Xavier's mother came to him when he was complaining and said, obey to her, help her. Thank God she said that, because Chico Xavier needed that training to be the missionary he became and save lives. We're not going to tell our children, stay in a bad environment because you need to learn. No. We're just going to say, if your teacher says something, you obey, period. If an authority says something, you obey it. Unless it's against your life or the life of somebody else or something that is harmful. But we're talking about common sense here. The teacher says, quiet, we quiet. Sit, we sit. But, no but. And do not expect others to create the limits, because often we expect that teachers are going to teach them, and if we cannot handle one kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, you think the teachers, right, Rejane, are going to be having a beautiful time giving limits to 20, 40 kids. Impossible. They're just managing it. It's even cruelty on our sides as parents to expect that children are going to be educated by teachers. Walk the talk and be coherent, says Professor and Dr. Américo Canhoto in Spiritism. What if we don't? The scenario of addictions is one of the worst that happens nowadays in society. And I deal with many parents that suffer the outcome of addictions. But when you go back to childhood, the writing was on the wall, they didn't want to read it. It was right there. If today, as early as they are, they surrender to peer pressure, a preteen, teen years, you think they want? It's going to be cool to drink, to smoke, to snort cocaine. It's cool. Because it's cool to be cool. We needed to read it right now. And say, you're not here to entertain people and to be liked by people. You're here to like them. So, Américo Canhoto says to us that parents are in charge of creating addictions from their children's cradle. He says, when we drink alcohol in front of our children, we're teaching them that it's okay. That's the first addiction. And the addiction that historically leads to others. Oh, I don't believe it. It's science. These are not mere sayings. When Américo Canhoto is saying this, he's not saying out of his own mouth, his personal conclusion. Science says it nowadays. But why doesn't it become mainstream? Because people are weak. They're weak. I know neuroscientists who drink to drunkenness. And they know that it's bad for your brain. One thing knowing, another doing. Food addiction. It happens when we're kids.
Vanessa, can you say something about the drink? I hear so many people say, oh, it's just to socialize.
Okay.
It's just like, oh, you're being too much. You know, like when I say something
Yes,
about
yes,
alcohol, they go, oh, but you're like, my cousin called me Shita. Because I was like, no, thank you. They get upset because I don't want it. You know what I mean? Like, but when you try to explain, say, oh, it's just a glass of wine.
I would say don't explain unless they really want to know. Just don't go there. You can say like, oh, I don't feel like it. Because, you know, they feel insulted, right?
Yeah.
That we are not...
They think I'm better than them because I don't drink. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
But if people want to know, what happens is physically, alcohol dehydrates the cells. If you want to dehydrate a tissue to study under the microscope, you just go through a series of dehydration. Easy peasy. And you don't need like 10 hours. 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. Dehydrated. Series. 50% alcohol, 70% alcohol, 100% alcohol. Oh, but Vanessa, I don't drink like 100% alcohol. Okay. But physically, the scientific journals already say it's not good for you. It decreases the years of your life. Spiritually, we don't need more than a little bit to be in a different state of mind, have our perispirit open. It's as if I open the doors of my house. Okay, in the United States, maybe a person's not gonna get in. But a raccoon, or
a bear.
A bear, right? Something else will, like rats, right? Papai, gatos. So, for us, it's something that we need to keep in mind, okay? That we are teaching our children that it's okay, that it's valid. Oh, but Vanessa, it's not like cocaine. But addiction is addiction. You cannot tell them, don't be addicted if you are. So it begins there. Begins with food addiction. When people are like, oh, he's taller than the average 5. Oh, it's so beautiful to be bigger, to be... And then we eat more, eat more, eat more, eat more. I mean, one thing is when we get together with friends, we want to make it special. But daily, indulging daily is detrimental to us. Right? And that doesn't mean that we are not going to have our food preferences because each person has their own, but managing it to levels that are beneficial to the health. Parents who smoke, drink, eat in excess are teaching their children to do the same. Common sense, not so much because we don't believe it until it happens. One day I saw a mother of an addicted, like illegal drugs. And she said, oh, you know, I miss you so much. We were having our barbecue and drinking our caipirinhas. I missed you there. I'm like, you already know that he's in the path of illegal drugs. And you missed him, and you mentioned about the alcoholic thing. So you really are contributing to sustaining that addiction. 3, teach them to serve. Some children are sweet and kind when their whims are fulfilled. You do what they want, they're loving. Or else. We need to educate them until they learn how to be educated and kind even when frustrated. Read the book by Emmanuel. I didn't write the book. Paul and Stephen, the first 3 chapters. We have 2 characters there, real ones, Abigail and Jaziel. Both. In facing the harshest scenario, Jaziel was kind, and sweet. Why? Their mother taught them from childhood. That book is a lesson for us in childhood education. People read because of Paul of Tarsus, but they forget that it's much more than that. Emmanuel doesn't write that masterpiece just for that reason, to retell the story. He's showing points that we didn't know. How did Stephen become Stephen? The reason why Saul pretty much became Paul. The mother was instrumental. Not so much the father. The mother. And in the Spiritist literature, it says the mother is the responsible person. The father too, but the mother is number one. Why? Because we just did. And I see mothers nowadays pretending that we have equal responsibility. Not according to God. According to God, mothers are more responsible. Oh, yeah. We take turns, don't worry. We take turns in another life. That doesn't mean that fathers are not important, because they are very important. But nowadays we see many women who are trying to wash their hands and say, oh, but my husband does 50-50. I wish it were the same. It's not the same. Because they're not capable. No. Because according to the reincarnatory plan, we have a deal before we reincarnated, that we were going to give to them more. Why? Only history tells. If we could rewind the tape of previous lives. Why we are gestating them and not the father. There is something more we need to do. Not because we're more important, but we promised to give more. We promised to give more of ourselves. And nowadays we see everything twisted. No wonder we're seeing problems in our society. So when Americo Canhoto says teaching them to serve and be careful about their whims, they say, do not give in to manipulation. What does he mean? We often create manipulative adults when we give money for good grades. Right? Oh, if you ace it, I'll give you money. Monetary prize for high performance in sports and games. Dessert condition that children eat the whole meal. Money if they do their chores. And the studies show that children who do chores at home, they become more responsible adults. So inviting them to help. Like a friend of mine says, it's a family chore. You're part of the family. The family does, we do too. You do too. It doesn't need to be much. Little by little, they participate. Little by little, they participate. They feel like they are important, they are in charge. The scientific studies show that they will be responsible adults. Oh, they're just kids. Come on, let them play. Play, play. And when is there a cutoff? One day, we say they are teens. They're used to doing nothing. Their brains didn't compute. Too late. The earlier, the better. I remember every time we traveled with Virginia for Spiritist talks, and the Spiritist activist people like, oh my gosh, she's gonna be here instead of playing. Thank God. because she's going to learn that this is life. This is life. Life is not a playground. If I teach her that every weekend we go to a playground, I'm lying to her. Because for me as an adult, there isn't playground every weekend. So it's good for her to know that maybe friends will be in a party, but she has to go to a spiritist activity to help others. But you have play dates, selected friends, not everyone. We are not going to entertain at every occasion possible because it's not real. It's not real. No wonder Chico Xavier was born in a very simple village. Professor lived Barçanufo, Divaldo Franco, Dalai Lama, and why? Because we don't need that exposure. But if we live in Northern Virginia, where life is above the average compared to the world, we need to watch out. Keep it simpler. Home is always sweet home. Less excitement, more familiarity, quietude. If the brain is constantly stimulated to 10,000 things, no wonder we have the higher levels of anxiety, depression, stress, and panic attacks nowadays. Because they are overstimulated. And ADD, yes, overstimulated. No limits. Sometimes I doubt it's real ADD. You know, I think it's they haven't been educated. Majority of them have never received a no, never received limits. They don't know how to sit and wait and do nothing, just stay there. We did it. Why can't they? When we were little, our parents would say, sit, stay still, wait. And we waited. It worked. Why are we doing it differently? We don't, no spanking, that's a no-no. No verbal abuse, putting down, no. But limits, yes. So the good spirits, if we could, are giving us an aid kit for parents tonight, for all of us, to give us that reinforcement, okay, for all of us. A vitamin, a scissor, and a magnifier. First, believe in yourself as a parent, as God believes in you. Because God believes you that you are the best mother and the best father for your children, the ones that they need. Because many parents enter the guilty trip all the time. I'm not adequate. I'm not appropriate enough. I'm not good enough for me. Oh my gosh, go to sleep like, I didn't do well. Tell yourself, before they reincarnated, they knew it. The superior spirits knew it. They chose us. Okay, we'll start over tomorrow. Believe. I believe in me as a parent. Tell yourself, I believe in me as a parent. Because if you don't believe in yourself, the first part of it is broken. They feel it, and that's why they samba on us. They dance the samba on us, because they feel we are not confident as parents. You know, between Carlos and I'm the one who says a lot of no's to Virginia. But I always tell her, I'm telling you no because I love you. Because I care about you. But I mean it. I feel it. You need to feel it. It's important to believe in ourselves as parents, saying, I am the best parent that my child needs in this life. God, you believe in me, help me believe in myself and do my best. Start anew tomorrow when the sun goes up again. The task is not as difficult, says St. Augustine, as difficult as you might think. These are words by St. Augustine to Kardec. Kardec, are you kidding me? But he was an educator. He knew what he was talking about. He knew why he was publishing these words by St. Augustine, because it's real. It does not require the wisdom of the world, thank God. So what do we need? We need to connect with our guardian angel and the guardian angel of the child. Every night when we go to bed, talk to the guardian angel of the child. Say, please guide me tonight to see what I need to do to fix, correct, trim down this beautiful spirit that needs to evolve securely in this life. Then, be a scientist, use a magnifier, be a scientist of your children. Who says it? St. Augustine. Study the children. He says, from infancy, children manifest the good or evil instincts they have brought from their previous existence, and it is necessary that we apply ourselves to studying them. These are words of St. Augustine, chapter 14, item 9 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. You study. They are not perfect yet. So we look and see which things I need to help them adjust. Focus. It's like physical therapy. There's a broken leg, focus on it. There's a broken arm, focus on it. If we see something in their character, like children not being inclusive. Oh. Do you like to be excluded? No. So why are you excluding? All the time. Like, come on. Do what you want to receive. Now you're being sarcastic. Sarcasm is okay in our society, but it's bad for the spirit. It attracts bad spirits. Without vices, scissors, huh? The scissors in the kit. Okay, let me go back here. Vitamin. I believe in me as parents. Magnifier, study the child as a spirit, not as the child, but the spirit, and use the scissors. This is a sentence by St. Augustine. Without vices and reinforce virtues. He says, all evils have their origin in selfishness and pride, so watch out for the least signs that reveal the seeds of these vices and take care to combat them without waiting for them to put out deeper roots. He says here, least signs, least. When children say, I want to be best, the number one, it's our schools reinforce it. But we tell our children, not you, not you, not you. But Vanessa, don't worry, God has a plan for them. You teach them to be the best, the number one, the competitor. It's against the law of God. We're going against the law of God. So our society in America is wrong. Our schools need to change. That's why the shootings happen in schools. Because that's where we incite competition. And if we don't change with our children, who will change it? It must begin somewhere.
One is, I was just with the teacher of the boy who, what is the Virginia
Shooting?
yeah.
Oh, really?
She was my client, and she was telling me how the mother
Felt.
like was a sister and so she was the teacher of the boy, and then the mother was like always telling why you're not like your sister.
Oh my gosh. Oh, really? Wow.
Your sister is better than you. Why you're like that?
Yeah.
And I think she was her kindergarten teacher, the boy. So I was like, when I was listening, I was like, oh my God.
Thank you for sharing this. Wow. 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 Of course, when people say, oh, he was so sweet, we didn't see it come, everybody's blind.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're pretending.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can see it clearly. It's right there. You can almost see what's going to happen next. And you don't need to be psychic or medium. But if we incur in the crime of teaching our children to be competitors, to be better, to be the best, we are not good parents. We're failing our children before God. Our mission to lead them to God. That's why in our program inside, though loving, we teach our children. Here, if you try to be number one, we're going to check mark you once, twice, 3 times, consequences. Because here, nobody's better than others. If we don't teach them here, where will they learn? So, to wrap up for today, only for today, to strengthen ourselves as parents and educators, future parents, educators, and for ourselves as human beings overall, count on Jesus as your coach. I don't know how to be a good mom. But God can teach me, and He assigned Jesus as a model. So let us take courses, bless you, in the afterlife. How? When you go to sleep, you're tired, I know. Like we're exhausted, right? We don't even see it, like how we sleep. Like we think of sleeping, we're already there, the day's already here again, like, oh my gosh, what happened? So say, God. So in the shower, or when you're changing your clothes, however your habit, before you lay down, God, I want to enroll myself in the course. You won't be tired because the body's resting, but we can take the courses in the afterlife, where they will teach us, and the guardian angels of our children will meet with us daily to say, remember this, do that. We wake up feeling it. And there is something that I read by Dr. Lair Ribeiro in Brazil. He says something that conjugates with Spiritism. He says, before you go to bed, put a glass of water, drink it, ask your question. When you wake up, drink. Because that's conditioning, he says, Pavlov, and it's true. And he says, you're going to feel that at some point during your day, you're going to feel the answer. It's like conditioning. But he doesn't know about the Spiritist view. At least he doesn't talk about it. But we know that it's true. None of your questions are left without an answer. The good spirits will answer. The good spirits are better parents than we can be. They will answer to our questions. But count on Jesus. Jesus is taking care of us. As educators, you have a student that is not doing well, no matter the age. Bring the case to Jesus. open up and say, you know, what should I do to help? How can I guide this life? And care about every single life, but first and foremost, the lives that were given to us temporarily, because one day we'll return them back to God, figuratively speaking. Okay? So this is pretty much what we wanted to share and remind us. In a month, we're going to have another study for parents, educators, etc., bringing to us more tools so we can master this mission that is so important and can change lives. Okay? I know you may have questions, and we'll be here after the session ends. Feel free also to send an email, to make a phone call, because we're open to talk with everyone who needs to talk and receive support. Okay? All right, friends, we're gonna dim the lights. Thank you, Tony.